Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel of Truth, Trust and Transparency. Today I have another real deal review for us to go through, and I'm going to show you why this one again doesn't pass the test. This particular deal is another Victorian one sent by someone that I'm actually really close mates with, that is going through a buyer's agent unfortunately, and I'm hoping maybe with a bit of wisdom and to show the value of reviewing the deal that they maybe decide to do it themselves, because as you'll see here, paying somebody the $20,000 to produce a deal like this, in my opinion, is not worth the money, and you're going to see exactly why. So let's dive into this one. I've had plenty of people submit deals for me to review, which is really exciting. So if you're out there and you have went down that BA path and you want a second set of eyes, and you're more than willing, I'm obviously not going to name names in terms of who you are or the buyer's agency, but I will review it. So I do need to show the address. So if that's something that appeals to you, get in touch with me on any of the socials. YouTube's pretty hard to message. So like Instagram, LinkedIn, or any of those deals, send it through and I'm happy to do a review on it, just to see if there's something that we can learn from it, or if it's a dud, or if it ticks a lot of the due diligence boxes. So I'm going to jump into this one today, and you can let me know your thoughts as well on what you think of this deal. So let's dive into it. Okay, so for everyone playing along, this particular address is 9 Muller Court, Mount Clear, Victoria 3350. Now, in terms of from a data perspective, Mount Clear actually looks really great. However, I know from the geographical location of Mount Clear, you need to be particularly careful with it. I'm going to show you exactly why today. Now, this is the danger, and I think if you're looking for an investment property and you just to have a look at these photos here, you're going to think, oh, look, relatively new brick construction, new build. I think this is built, 2015. It was sold for $297. So I'm going to say it was built around then. And you might look at this on surface level and go, oh, it looks great. It's obviously not going to require much maintenance. First issue me personally, that I can pick up is on this left-hand side. This looks like a zero setback with its neighbor, which tells me new housing estate or very small block. I'll give you a tip as well. Whenever you are selling a house or you are renting a house, always pay the photographer the $100 to $200 or whatever it's going to cost, $250. If you're renting it, the property managers have their guy to get professional photos done. I can tell by the flash that's on this front window here that this is done by an agent, and any professional photographer that's looking at this photo would be squirming at the fact that how novice that sort of error would be, and I bet you it's the same inside. Yeah, so you can tell that these are just taken on like a flash camera. So not much to report inside. Some nice, it looks like a stone bench with a bullnose, relatively new. I hate gloss finishes, but that is just, man, if I walked out and my floor was this glossy, nah, rip it out and start again, in my opinion. But look, I mean, that's not a reason not to buy it. Bedrooms look fine. Bathroom is, they're tight, but I suppose they're usable. Cool. It's got a bath tick. We know on my deal reviews what my thoughts are about baths. Cool. It's got an outdoor seating. Very low maintenance, which I suppose is great from a investor perspective. That's likely just going to fill with weeds. This is why I don't mind a bit of grass, and that's the front again. So one of the first things that I noticed when I brought this deal up, again, cul-de-sac, not ideal. I can see here it's relatively new construction, as we know by that sold price. One thing I want to highlight for you as well that I can see here is the red lines indicate easements. So it is likely that the rear is for some sort of stormwater. I'm guessing that's the site falls away to there. Now, there's one over the front driveway. It is not a red flag. People think that easements are red flags. Tells me you just don't know what an easement is. That is likely to be an easement for the use of the driveway, in my opinion. but it's something I would query with my solicitor or conveyancer if I was to progress with this deal, to check in the contract and see what it is. Again, and so you guys know, and I've said it in a previous deal review too, irregular shaped blocks, you do run the risk of having those valued less. So those ones in a cul-de-sac or those ones that are a battle axe block are likely to be valued less compared to if it's a normal rectangle and you've got that 12, 14, 15, 16 meters of street frontage. So for me, this is already saying no, this is kind of a battle axe, but it's a very irregular block shape. I wouldn't rule it out just because it has easements. That's not necessarily a huge issue, but it's just something that I'd note with my solicitor or conveyancer. In terms of the wider context, it's a nice big block there. In terms of the wider context for Mount Clear, here we go. Now, I can tell you already, I know the issue with this, but I'm going to walk you guys through it because I know Mount Clear pretty well. They're traversing quite west of Geelong Road. So Geelong Road is this main one here. So when you get quite west, you don't have flooding issues because obviously Mount Clear, you're on a mountain, but you do have what you can probably imagine from this thing here is probably bushfire. So that's already what I'm first thinking if you have this close, if you're located this close. So, I mean, here's my example in terms of block shape and block size. So if I'm comparing, let's just say I'm comparing this house here and our house in this deal here, you can't tell me that if they're 422, the exact same land size and that they're going to be the same value, because there's obviously a greater value on that regular shaped block and frontage compared to the battle axe block that this is. The next thing I did was to check the public housing of this particular area. We're located in here. It tells me that the public housing is 12%. That is relatively low as a percentage. It is relatively high compared to what's in Mount Clear, but 12%, it's not a extremely high amount. One thing that I'd probably check, especially with cul-de-sacs, is I'd log on to CoreLogic and I'd just see the last names of everyone in and around here and see if it was government housing, some sort of government housing last name, or if they were privately owned. Just an extra layer. I'm on the Victoria Planning website, and what you can see here, my overlays is BMO, and that's Bushfire Management Overlay. That's going to be a red flag. And I'll give you a little bit of a hint too. When you're looking at these and you have that bushfire overlay, now a good way to check would be to get a quote, get an insurance quote for this house. Chuck it through one of those online things. Remember, use one of your burner email accounts and get an insurance quote for it. And it's going to tell you how much of a risk the insurance company sees this particular property, because if it comes back and it's 20 grand a year, then you know that it is also a issue. For me, it's in that first BMO route. It's on that first BMO level. Then you have a secondary layout, and then you have the stuff that's clear. So see how we got those overlays. So for me, I wouldn't proceed with this deal because it's got that bushfire overlay. If you want to read on about it, it's pretty easy to pull up what a bushfire management overlay is and what the objectives are. You have to run a risk, or another layer of due diligence would be getting a clearance certificate or get a planning certificate from council that confirms that this particular dwelling is built with these requirements. Because as you can see, dwelling must be constructed to a bow level of 12.5. There's all these sorts of static water. So if you are and you want to take that risk on, I would be speaking to council to make sure and get that confirmation. For me, it's not something I would pursue. 1, bushfire overlay. 2, block size and irregularity. And for me, it's you want to think about it. You want to eliminate as much risk from the deal as possible, or depending on your risk appetite. But for me, you want to look at, I've said it before and I'll say it again, you want to look at the money can solve problems. You want to look at the houses that need a new fence, that need a new gutter, that need the gardens cleared. They are things that money can be solved. And when money can be solved, I can make a judgment or get a quote. I can take that into consideration when I put my offer forward to the real estate agent, and then I can then I can move forward and rectify that problem if I can pay for it and it's worth, and I can get the property under the market value, that when I add on the cost to fix it, I'm still happy with that total cost. In these particular circumstances, planning and overlays and block size and block shape is not something that I can change. I mean, block size you sort of can change with money, but it doesn't really count, in the investing world. You can do it in development, but, here you're not left with many options. And I think because of the bushfire overlay, to me, it's another no deal. So, apologize guys, another no deal, but that is my logic and thinking in terms of reviewing this particular deal and why I would not proceed with it. If you have any questions, or if you disagree, or you're just got a query, let me know in the comments, and happy to help you guys out. But yeah, no deal. I'll see you tomorrow.